You are a subletter. You don't have the same rights as the actual leasee? Okay, so we need to talk about the sublet drama that's going on in New York right now. So our two main players are EK and Marlon, like the fish. Now, both have TikTok accounts and live in New York, obviously. Marlon had this apartment and she was looking for a subletter after her former roommate scammed her out of a whole bunch of money and wasn't paying the one bill that she was supposed to take care of. That's not who we're talking about in this case. We are going to be talking about the person who took over that roommate's lease, who was then a subletter, EK. Now, EK moved to New York from Missouri, and she is a full-time artist. She makes these little Kit Kats. They're like these little cats. They're worry stones that you can fidget with and whatnot. They're made out of that polymer clay. Honestly, they are really cute, I will say. And that is how she makes all of her income, I guess, is just by doing drops of these cats. So, okay, that's one thing that has a lot of people very confused, how she's making enough money to live in New York being a full-time artist like that. So she sublets the room from Marlon, and honestly, I would describe this entire situation to you, but EK does it in so many videos. I'll just let her tell you guys what happened.
24 hours ago, I was told by my current roommate that I was getting kicked out at the end of June, even though I moved in a month ago. Quickest backstory on me: I'm a full-time artist in New York City and I've always wanted to live here. I broke up with an abusive ex, quit my job, moved here with not a lot of money. Through all of last year, I've just been aching to find home. I felt like this place was it. My room faces the backyard, so I get to hear the birds. It has a rooftop and I can see the entire skyline. It's perfect. I have one roommate, and when I met them, it seemed like everything was fine. There was a verbal agreement we were going to be re-signing in July, and that was when I was going to join the lease. When I moved in May, her tone changed, and it felt like she started policing me over things that were so elementary. I'm about to turn 30. This person is mid-20s, but acting like they're in high school. She would not allow me to store things on the top 2 shelves in the cabinet because it, quote, stresses her out. When I moved in, I had a different dish rack than her, the one that has walls on this side. She just had a flat dish rack where she would just kind of awkwardly and haphazardly pile up the dishes. And I was like, hey, I've got this other dish rack. Would you be open to us giving it a try? Immediately she shut it. My entire issue with her through this last month has just been her lack of compromising. And so a few nights ago, I received a text of her being like, please remember that the top shelf in the fridge is mine. I have just my gallon of milk stored up there in my creamer. Like, you can keep your milk here, but you need to move the creamer. And I was like, is there a reason why? Because you don't have that much stored on that shelf. She's like, because it's my shelf, that's why. And it was end of discussion. And I was too tired that night, and I deal with this in the morning because I need to say something. I wake up and I type out very long text. I spent over an hour working on it because I grew up in an abusive family. I was in an abusive relationship. I just overly analyzed all of my words because I was afraid of things being used against me. The last few months I've been working on that. I'm coming into myself and feeling more at ease and confident in all the things, but I can still really struggle with taking up space. Of course, I'm gonna have screenshots for you. This is exactly what I said. I have nothing to hide. She immediately came back with this, announcing that she was still looking for someone else to live with her. This is the first that I'm hearing of this. I thought everything was fine, besides her sort of hostile responses to me whenever I would bring something up as like a compromise, because that's what you fucking do with roommates. We don't even interact. She has her own front door in her bedroom. She doesn't even come through the living room. I stay in my room most of the time. We're kind of on different schedules. I'm giving all of this context because the further that you get down in these messages, the weirder that the shit gets. I got some tea from the girl who lived before me, and it gave so much context into some intuition that I had about my roommate, as well as what my role was in this scenario. Okay, here we go. Immediate reaction was just despair and desperation, and you can see it in my response to her. It's like, are we for real? Did I do something that offended you? Because I really want to stay. I'm very happy here. Mental health is so much better. And it was funny seeing her come back with, really, you're happy here? Your text says otherwise. And it was like, what do you mean? My text is specifically about your communication style, how you're unwilling to compromise. I like having these LED lights on that cost $5 to $10 a year. She was like, I don't want to spend the money on it. It's like, then don't. I will pay extra. Con Ed is in my name. And she's like, I still don't want to. And it's like, okay. I have this bad habit of just rolling over to keep the peace. Look at the sun. I was in the park a few weeks ago. I saw a hawk capture a smaller bird and flew up into the trees, and I hear all of the little birds squawking around it, and it was very traumatizing. I absolutely sobbed watching the feathers float down. But I knew I was seeing that for a reason. Posted about it on my Instagram story, and some people responded being like, I don't care that, the hawk needs to eat, it's just not right. Nature is neutral. Hawks exist to balance the ecosystem so there isn't overpopulation. They aren't doing this to be evil. They're just existing. They're just eating. A couple of days ago, I was like, holy shit. I continuously keep the peace because it was never safe for me in the past to speak up. Because when I did, I'd either get physically hurt, verbally assaulted, emotionally abused. Last few months, I've been really working on myself. Like I'm recovering a lot of that, and it is calming my nervous system. And that is what this place has given to me, is peace. And it was sort of one of those moments where you're like, I either eat or I will continue to suffer and eventually die by not taking up space. I was on the phone with her old roommate, and her old roommate was giving me the tea on their dynamic. And you'll see in some of the texts, especially the one where she mentions that she would prefer to live with someone who is ethnic or POC. My response to that was like, I can't argue with that. I don't want to make someone uncomfortable. And everyone who was hearing about this was like, but that's racist for her to say. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I know that people have preferences, and like, I don't want to overstep. And the longer that I thought about it, it was like, but we don't even interact. What way is like having anyone else in your space going to be different? I don't even need to make sense of it, because that is not the reason why. It is because the person who lived here before me, she did not realize how much this roommate was mooching off of her. She would cook for them often, clean up after the girl. When I moved in, it's funny because I had a weird sense of, I feel like she is going to expect us to share food. And I find out that she used to share food with the roommate before me. And so when she found out that I wasn't going to be sharing my food with her, I think that must have been when it shifted. I wasn't doing her dishes for her. I've been in 5 different sublets. I just like to keep my shit to myself. I can coexist with someone. I'd love to be friends with my roommate. And so I shifted my energy, and I was sitting right here. So I was like, when were you going to tell me this? Because until I texted you, this is the first time hearing about it. Funniest thing was her just being like, well, it's not set in stone. You know, I'm just looking. I was like, oh, but it has to be. It has to be set in stone. I could have been a week out from thinking that we were re-signing, and oh, surprise, actually not going to be living here anymore. I was like, I've been through this multiple times. I started looking for a new place in March. I also heard from my friend, it's like, it doesn't make sense that she's looking for 3 people. She's like, she isn't the one who looked for a subletter when I eventually found you. But she's like, I found this apartment, and she's kind of, I wound up being the one to leave and her staying. She was like, there was no mention of her preferring to live with someone ethnic or POC. She met you and said she thought you were cool. I get this text, what if you stay instead? And I leave. I was so shocked at how quickly she folded. I posted about this on my Instagram stories, and I had like 50, 60 messages. And then I went to my friend's house yesterday to work. She wound up having one of her friends come over who is also a fan of Stray Kids, like I am. And then another friend showed up. And of course, they're hearing all of the tea. They have all 17 fucking screenshots. And then like her sister calls in, and she's like, oh my god, do you remember my old roommate? Let me tell you about this. And then one of her friends called in who had like his random friend with, and it literally turned into the town fucking crier. It's like, not the whole village. Just felt so supported and seen by the universe. I am so powerful and magnetic, and I have been told by too many people that I'm not, and that I don't deserve to take up space. I don't deserve to eat. I deserve to eat. And I ate. That is literally what my friend said in the text after I told her about the hawk. She was like, you're the hawk and you just got fed. I was like, fuck yeah, we did. And so now we get to embark on a new journey. We'll either be finding a roommate or try to figure out a way to keep the place to myself. We shall see what happens. We shall see what comes for me.
I think I finally have the verdict on this whole landlord-roommate situation. You're not aware of what's been going on. TLDR is, current roommate said she didn't want to re-sign with me, so I was going to be the one to leave, and then she was like, actually no, never mind, you can stay, I'll leave. Changed her mind like 2 weeks later, and then the landlord didn't know what the fuck was going on, and so no one knew what was going on. I find out from the landlord that she's actually leaving. I was given like 24 hours to find a new roommate. I found someone, and because of the stress, especially the landlord not disclosing that they were increasing the rent, she backed out, which is so valid. And then I found a second person. That has not fallen through quite yet, but it's like 99% sure that it is going to. And so as of today, the landlord was like, we need to put you on your own lease and we'll rewrite it once you find a new roommate. And it's like, cool, okay, that's dope that I don't have to move. I was fine if I needed to, if I knew ahead of time, but it has just been the lack of communication. It's been emotionally and psychologically so fucking stressful. And all I wanted is just to get on a lease and live in a neighborhood long enough to actually become a part of the community. I want to be fully transparent with you though. I set up a GoFundMe last week in preparation for this potential outcome, because covering the entirety months of rent for July and a security deposit and a third-party guarantor is a lot of fucking money that I don't have, that I've not been prepared to pay. I can afford to live here with roommates, and I am totally fine having roommates. I've just wanted like the chance to have time to find someone and not be so rushed, because I know that that is like what's been causing the biggest issues with the people that I have found. Genuinely, the last thing that I want to do is steal from the community, especially from the people who have lived here all of their lives. The thing that I've always respected about New York is New Yorkers. My favorite thing is talking with people who've lived here all of their lives and hearing their stories, and especially hearing about the communities that they grew up. People have supported me through this entire year, not just with this. Supporting like my art with my worry stones or encouraging words. That is not lost on me. I'm so grateful for that. And that is not going to go to waste. I'd love to take a portion of what has been donated and give it back to the community. I'm going to do the research. I'm not asking you to do the research for me. People have helped me, but I also don't want to only just be receiving. I want to give back. I am so grateful for the people who have donated and supported. Thank you for getting me this far. I hope that this is the last update from me about all of this. So ready to move on with my life. Until then, be kind to yourself.
So after EK comes on the internet and releases like all these different videos explaining the situation and what's been going on, Marlon finally comes on the internet and she explains what happened from her point of view.
A sublet I met about a month ago made a 30-part TikTok series about me, and I want to address a few things. We're gonna keep it short and straight to the point because 30? I genuinely don't know how any of this is my fault. You started subleasing a few weeks ago. A sublease is temporary by definition, meaning I don't owe you shit. You are not entitled just because you moved in. I feel like I gave you plenty of notice and time to make arrangements so that when you re-sign the lease, you won't be stressed out. You even admitted that you found someone within a day. The real issue is that the rent increased and now you need to qualify for the lease yourself. And that is not my problem. That's just how New York renting goes. I feel like that's how renting goes in any state. You have moved 5 times within a year. At this point, babe, there's a common denominator and it's definitely not the people that you're subleasing from. I feel like at this point it's you. Throughout all your videos, there was a consistency of you talking about me, about my situation, my bills, my pay stubs, my proof of income, when in reality, I have a job. I pay my bills on time. I even secured my new apartment. I think you're projecting what you're lacking onto me. I feel like what's genuinely crazy is I never wished anything bad upon you. I really do hope you get approved for this apartment with your new roommate. What sucks is that you made 30 videos about me consecutively, wishing bad upon me, saying I'm getting karma, calling me names, calling me out of my name. I don't even know you, babe, and you don't even know me. I just met you a month ago. Hello? I just feel like I'm getting dragged for choosing what's best for me and my future. She also started a GoFundMe. I'm gonna insert the GoFundMe right here so you can read it briefly. You didn't start a GoFundMe because you lost your job, you have medical expenses to take care of, or have hard times at this moment. You started a GoFundMe because you don't have the funds for the apartment, and instead of being honest about that, you're blaming me. People have asked you multiple times, why don't you get an actual job? And your response is always, I'm an artist. There is plenty of artists in New York City that still have regular jobs because they know rent needs to be paid at the end of the day. And instead of finding a job, you decide to basically scream, call me out of my name, say that I am a nightmare roommate, blaming me for not wanting to re-sign the lease with you, which is crazy. I feel like if you started a GoFundMe that said, I can't afford rent right now, that's one thing. But because you switched the narrative and basically stated you are trapped in a traumatized, abusive situation with your roommate because I'm choosing to leave is completely different. I feel like at some point you have to stop blaming other people for your circumstances that you are responsible for as a grown adult. And babe, you are 30 years old. You are a grown woman. Even I in my 20s understand the concept of how renting, how deposits, how moving, how all of that goes. If I can understand that and I take responsibility because I know the world doesn't owe me anything, I feel like you can do that as well. You're not getting evicted, you got the lease, and I'm moving out at the end of this month. and that's it.
So when EK describes kind of the little issues that the two had when they were trying to live together, honestly, it doesn't sound like that bad. And even when she tells it, you kind of feel like, I don't know that this is like the full story necessarily. Like, we're not really getting all the facts from EK. And the internet has been on fire talking about this because of the fact that EK doesn't understand why her paperwork isn't approved to become an actual leaseholder versus just a subletter. I guess like the qualifications to be one or the other is like very different. Like if you're a subletter, the requirements for you to have in order to rent an apartment are very different if you're like signing the lease as the main tenant. And also it has been pointed out how the landlord has let her live there up until this point with all of this going on and has given her like ample amounts of time to kind of figure out the situation. And honestly, the internet just is not on EK's side. However, I feel like even if she did have another job, she would have to work that job for, I mean, I don't know what the requirements are in New York, but I think you have to work at that job for like over a year typically to show that, one, you've held the job for a year and you have enough pay stubs to actually show that you're making that amount of income, versus like where she's an artist and she doesn't have pay stubs to show how much she can reliably make every month, if that makes sense. Like her income is just a little too up in the air, I think, for any landlord to feel like, yes, I can rent to this person and they're going to be able to pay the rent every month. That's just kind of how I see it, but I would love to know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Honestly, I'm on Marlon's side in this whole situation. I kind of feel like, yeah, if EK was my roommate, I would like prefer to probably just move out and be like, okay, girl, like you got it. And Marlon has posted like apartment hunting videos, and actually one of her friends also came on the internet and kind of spoke on the situation. But that is it for this situation. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to come back for my next video. Bye guys.